Hi, I'm Candy Underwood, and I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent here at the North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Cumberland County Center. And today I thought I would show you how to freeze vegetables. So I thought with corn in season, let's work with some corn. So I've got some fresh corn here from a local farmer, and when you're freezing corn or any type of vegetable, you want to be sure that you blanch your vegetables. It's very important because that blanching is going to inactivate the enzymes that are on your vegetables, and it's going to help hold the color and the texture of your vegetables as well. Also, when blanching, there's different times that you need to blanch. Like today, when we blanch our corn, we're going to cut it off the cob. So there's a certain amount of time I need to blanch it. And according to my recipe, I only need to blanch it for 4 minutes. But if I was going to freeze it on the cob, it would depend on the diameter of my corn. Now, most of my corn here is about a medium-sized corn. The diameter it's about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 inch in diameter. And according to our recipe, it only needs to be blanched for 9 minutes. But since we're going to cut it off the cob, we're going to only blanch it for 4 minutes. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to shuck our corn. Different people shuck corn different ways. And I'm just going to shuck it the way I always grew up when we were putting up corn. I'll usually pull a few pieces down. And then I'll just grab this part and just pop it off. That way I don't really have to worry about using a knife and cutting that off. And then I'll just start peeling from the bottom and going the opposite direction. And you may find when you get some corn, this corn is really pretty good. It's not very buggy. It wasn't buggy at all. But you may find you may have a little visitor living in your corn, and they like to live at the top. So if you do see that, you can just cut your little friend out of there, that little spot that he was nibbling on, and or you can just cut it straight across if you want to get rid of that spot. And then you can still use the corn. You don't have to throw it away. So I've got my corn shucked, and what we need to do is to rinse our corn. And it has all these little silks in here, and I have a little vegetable brush that can kind of help us in getting rid of some of our silks. It won't get rid of them all, but it'll help, to get rid of most of them. So I'm going to take it over to the sink, and I'm just going to run it under some water and run my my vegetable brush on there, trying to get as many of those silks out as possible. And I like to kind of use it dry, and then I'll stick it under the water too. So we're going to head over to the sink. So I'm just going to run my corn under some cool water. And I'm just going to take my brush and look for those little silks. And try to pull them out. You don't want to rub your corn hard because you can cut into your kernels, because you want that milk, especially if we're going to make cream corn. We want as much milk as we can in our corn. And when you're working with any kind of vegetable, you want to work in small batches at a time. That way, you can keep them at the right temperature. So I think this one looks pretty good. And then after we do this, we're going to take it and we're going to start blanching our corn. Okay, now we're going to blanch our corn. And when you're blanching, normally you're going to use 1 gallon of water per pound of your vegetable. So I have about 2 pounds of corn here. And you'll see I have a rolling boil, and that's what you want. You want a nice big pot, and this actually will come out. So when we're done blanching, I'll just lift this out and take it over to my cold water bath, because that's what blanching is. We're going to put it in really hot water for a certain amount of time, and as soon as that time's up, we're going to shock it with some cold water, and that's going to stop it from cooking. So I'm only going to use 2 ears of corn at a time, because I want my water to come to a boil with at least a minute after I add my corn. If I add too much corn, it's not going to come back to a boil that fast. So I'm going to try 2 ears at a time. We have our rapid boil, so I'm going to add it in here. It's still boiling, so I'm going to add my top, which is good, and then we're going to time this for 4 minutes. And when that 4 minutes is up, I'm going to take my basket over to my cold water bath, and then it'll sit in that water for 4 minutes, and then it'll be ready. And then we'll add 2 more of our corn cobs back into our pot, and we'll do the same process. All right, so there's our 4 minutes. So I'm going to raise my corn out and be real careful because it's hot. And then I'm going to bring it over here to my ice bath and just let it sit down in there so it can stop cooking. And this will sit in this ice bath for another 4 minutes, the same amount of time it took it to blanch. And then after it sat in here for 4 minutes, and I'm just going to transfer it to another basket and just continue the process until I have all my corn done. Okay, now that we're done blanching, we've put it in the hot water, then we shocked it in the cold water. We're going to cut it off the cob. You can actually use a knife if you wanted whole kernel corn. I would, tell you to use a knife and cut it off. But we're going to make cream corn. That's my favorite, is cream corn. And you can still use a knife if you wanted to cut it off and then get your blade and kind of scrape the milk out of the corn. But this is a corn cutter. I don't know if you're familiar with these. When my parents would put up corn, they always used a corn cutter, and theirs was actually wood. It wasn't plastic. And it would be a day of putting up corn. Here I only have like 6 ears of corn just to show you, but if you're going to put up corn and put this much effort into it, you're going to want, more than just 6 ears of corn. And I wanted to let you know too that freezing is the easiest way to preserve your food. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my corn cob down here, and this cutter has a blade on it. It's really sharp here, so be careful, and some little teeth, and it's just going through and cutting that corn off, as well as getting my milk, a little bit of that milk out of the corn too. Now, you could cut the corn off and then blanch, but I find it easier to blanch the cob and then cut it off. You don't have to worry about the corn sticking. This way we can just go ahead and put it right into our freezer bags. And you want to make sure you purchase freezer bags. Just don't purchase regular, ordinary plastic bags. You want to look for freezer. And if I was freezing the whole cob, I would probably look for gallon bags. But I have the smaller bags here. These are the quart bags. So we're just going to keep cutting it off. This is a lot easier. There's different types of corn cutters. I've seen them where you can just slide the corn down over a round device. So you can see what you can find. I found this at a local hardware store. You may have to kind of tilt your cob here on the ends to get all the goodie off. Trying to get every little bit. Okay. Oh, little goodie. Just be careful. And now that we have all our corn cut off, this is when you're going to start placing it into your freezer bags. And these are your little freezer bags. And what I'm going to do, you need to date your bags and put on here what it is. So I'm going to write on here before I put my corn in. So this is cream corn. And I just use a permanent marker. And I'm going to put today's date. That way I know when the corn was made. And always when you're freezing, you want to use what you froze earlier in the year first, and then you work your way back to your most current. So if I had something I froze earlier this year or maybe last year, I want to be sure that I use that first before I use this. And there's nothing better than in the wintertime, and you want some fresh vegetables to go in your freezer and get them out. It's like summertime. So once I get it in the bag, what I do is I will just kind of flatten it out like this. And this is going to help you have more room in your freezer. So you can actually lay another bag right on top of this bag, and I'll squeeze out my air. And normally you leave about a 1/2 inch head space at the top. And then I'll just zip it closed. It's ready to go in the freezer. And I'm going to wipe that off a little bit since I've got some corn on it before I put it in there. I'm just going to slide this in the freezer. All right, now that we have our corn in the freezer, if you would like to learn more about freezing your vegetables as well as fruit, you can give me a call. I have a wonderful little brochure that gives you different types of vegetables and their blanching times. If you would like me to send you one, feel free to call me. Hope to see you soon.